Hi, welcome to Oriental Secret Garden Channel. We're doing a deep dive today, and it all started with just looking at one object, something really tangible, kind of beautiful, actually.
Right. It caught our eye, and discussing it just opened up this whole area.
Exactly. So the source for this one is really that conversation sparked by this specific antique piece, a Victorian-era Scottish agate bracelet.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission today, I guess, is to unpack the story behind it. Not just, what it looks like, but why it looks like that.
Yeah, what's it made of? Where did that stuff even come from?
And how was it made? What was going on back then? And crucially, why does something like this still, resonate today?
And that's the hook, really. For you listening, this isn't just about shiny rocks and old silver.
No.
Exploring this one bracelet actually takes us to places that don't exist anymore. Shows how, royal taste could shape whole industry. Uncovers these hidden symbols, and maybe helps explain why, in this age of fast fashion, things built to last are having a moment again.
Okay, so let's start right there. The object itself. First impressions. You pick this thing up. What hits you?
The weight. Definitely the weight. It feels substantial.
Okay.
You notice the heavy silver, and these stones, they're quite chunky, very distinct. It just screams, I'm not new.
Right. It has that vintage look baked in.
Totally. And you'd identify it pretty quickly as a Victorian-era Scottish agate bracelet. You can see it's sterling silver, 925.
And you can tell there's handwork involved.
Oh, yeah. Immediately. It's intricate.
So those stones are really the star, aren't they? They're not all the same. They've got these amazing kind of wild layered patterns inside. Tell us about Scottish agate, because I think the agate most people see today looks, different.
You're absolutely right. A lot of modern agate is often dyed bright colors, very uniform, machine cut, very precise.
Yeah.
But the agate, in a piece like this, it's completely natural. The colors, the patterns, that's just how it formed in the earth. Right. And it was all cut and polished by hand.
And where it came from specifically is a big part of the story, isn't it?
Huge. These particular types of agate came from specific spots in the Scottish Highlands, places like Montrose, Ayrshire, areas known for these deposits back in the day.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting for me. This isn't something jewelers can just, order up today.
No, exactly. And that's a key thing. The rarity now, the mines, the places that produce this unique Scottish agate, they basically stopped operating a long, long time ago.
When did they close?
Mostly in early 20th century. So, over 100 years ago.
Wow. So the actual raw material, You can't get it out of the ground anymore.
Correct. There's no new supply being mined, none. So every genuine piece you see from that era, like this bracelet, is using material that's literally antique stock. It's finite, tied to that specific time and place. That makes the material itself really valuable and just irreplaceable.
Okay, so the stones are special origin, scarcity, got it.
Mm-hmm.
What about the silver? You said it's heavy sterling silver, 925. But the decoration on it, the patterns, it's so detailed. How do they do that without modern tools?
Right. So the main technique you see is called chasing. It's a type of hand engraving, but it's a bit different. Instead of cutting away metal, you use a sharp tool and tiny hammer taps to actually push the silver. You're shaping it line by line, creating these raised, textured designs.
Ah, okay. So it's more like sculpting the surface than carving it.
That's a good way to put it. You're displacing the metal.
Yeah.
And because every single line, every little detail was pushed by hand, well, if you look really closely, you'll see tiny variations. Each section might follow the pattern, but it has its own unique feel. No two bits are perfectly identical. That's part of the charm, really.
Now, something I've noticed on pieces like this, sometimes there's no hallmark. The little stamps, the 925 or a maker's mark. Doesn't that make you wonder if it's real or where it came from?
That's a fair question. And yeah, it comes up. But actually, for a lot of pieces from this time, especially made in Scotland, not having a hallmark is pretty common. It doesn't automatically mean it's fake or low quality.
Why not?
Well, many were made by local silversmiths in smaller workshops, kind of outside the main city centers where the official assay offices were. They just didn't always register their stuff for hallmarking.
But this bracelet, the one we're talking about, you confirmed it is sterling silver.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Tested and confirmed as 925 sterling. So the quality's there, even without the stamp.
Right.
In a way, that lack of a formal mark, It almost feels more personal, like it points to a local artisan, you know?
Yeah, like finding amazing cheese or some craft whiskey that doesn't have the big fancy label, but you know it's top quality just by tasting it.
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy. The quality of the material and the skill in the making, that's what really tells the story.
Okay, let's place this in time.
Yeah.
Victorian era. Why were these Scottish agate bracelets so incredibly popular back then? What was the deal?
Well, this ties right into the bigger picture, socially. It's really a classic case of royal influence driving a trend.
Okay.
These bracelets became massively fashionable because Queen Victoria just fell in love with Scotland.
All right, Balmoral Castle and all that.
Exactly. She built Balmoral. She started wearing tartans, making them fashionable, and crucially, she began wearing Scottish gemstone jewelry, including agate pieces like this one, publicly.
And when the Queen wears something?
Everyone wants it. It became a huge fashion statement. But it wasn't just fashion. It was tied up with national identity, this sort of romantic view of Scotland that was very popular at court.
So wearing one was like signaling you were in tune with the Queen and with Scotland.
Pretty much. It showed you appreciated her taste, her favorite place. It had layers.
Looking at the design again, there's often that big buckle shape. Right at the front, usually. Was that actually how it fastened?
No, funny enough, it looks like a clasp, but it's usually fixed. It's purely symbolic.
Symbolic of what?
The buckle was a really popular motif in the 19th century, not just jewelry, but furniture, other decorative arts. It stood for things like loyalty, protection, faithfulness, commitment.
Interesting. So it wasn't just decoration, it might have carried a message?
Often, yeah. A subtle one, maybe about the wearer's values, or perhaps the sentiment behind it if it was a gift.
The whole look, the overall aesthetic, it's quite distinct because it feels like a mix of things.
It really is. You definitely see echoes of older Celtic designs, that historical link.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a touch of Gothic drama, maybe in the heavier silver, the sometimes darker stones. But it's all filtered through this Victorian sensibility, elegance, but also sentimentality.
It creates this unique style. I can see why it might appeal now to people interested in vintage or even that sort of dark academia aesthetic.
Absolutely. It fits right into that moody, historical, slightly scholarly vibe.
It really feels like you're wearing a little piece of a story, like you said earlier, a history book for your wrist.
Exactly. It's wearable history, tangible.
Okay, the big question everyone probably has on their mind. Money. What's something like this actually worth today?
Right. Well, looking at the current antique market or auction, a genuine Victorian Scottish agate bracelet, like the kind we're discussing, assuming it's in good shape. You're typically looking at somewhere between, say, $800 and $2,000 US. And can they go higher than that? Oh, for sure. If you find one with particularly rare or unusual stones, maybe exceptionally detailed silverwork. Yeah. Or if it can be traced to a known significant maker or maybe even has its original fitted box from the period. Yeah. Then, prices can easily hit $2,500, maybe even more for really top-tier examples.
But you made this point earlier, and I want to circle back to it. The price tag isn't the only value here. Maybe not even the most important kind.
Yeah, and this brings up a really fundamental question, doesn't it? What is value? For pieces like this, the lasting value, the real value. It's not just the dollars, it's about what you simply cannot fake or replicate today.
Like what specifically?
Well, the material itself. We talked about the mines being closed. You cannot just go mine more Scottish agate like this. You can't replicate the sheer time and intense hand labor that went into crafting it using those old techniques like chasing.
All gone.
Yeah. And you can't replicate that specific historical moment, Queen Victoria's influence, the fashion, the cultural context, all those elements, the material, the time, the craft, the history, they are, like we said, all gone.
Vanished.
Exactly. And that's what makes these pieces genuinely precious. It's a value beyond currency.
It's such a contrast when you think about some modern trends. Like, remember the whole Y2K revival?
Yeah.
Bright colors, plastics, shiny surfaces, kind of lightweight, almost disposable feeling sometimes.
Right. And this bracelet is almost the polar opposite aesthetically.
Yeah.
And maybe that contrast helps explain why we're seeing this renewed interest in antique jewelry generally, and pieces like this in particular.
How so?
Well, old jewelry often wasn't made just to be trendy for 6 months. It was frequently created to hold deeper meaning, things like memory or identity.
Connection to a person or a place.
Exactly. It was about embedding story and significance, not just fleeting style. A piece from the 1800s might have carried layers of meaning about the wearer's family, their life, maybe even their heritage.
Which is different from a lot of modern stuff.
It often is. Many contemporary pieces are designed for quick production. They're light. They're meant to be swapped out easily when the next trend hits. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. It serves a different purpose.
Sure.
But it really highlights the fundamental difference in philosophy almost.
So do you think this interest in antiques is just another trend, or is it something deeper?
I think it feels like more than just a phase. It seems like people are starting to ask different questions when they look at objects.
Like what?
Like, why does this old stone look so intricate and wild compared to this perfectly uniform modern one? Or, how did this bracelet even survive for 150 years?
Or maybe, why do people notice this and ask me about it when I wear it?
Exactly. Because it stands out. It feels different. It's not just another accessory. It feels like it connects you to something bigger, something real. It starts to become part of your story, too. And I think that's why antique jewelry is finding its audience again. It's not just because some pieces might be expensive. It's because they feel authentic.
Yeah.
Real. Yeah, real. They have physical weight. They carry this sense of history, this memory. They have attitude, you could say. Something you just don't get from mass production.
Which brings us back to the core idea. Wearing something like this, it's not primarily about showing off how much it cost, is it?
No, I really don't think so. I mean, the monetary value exists, sure. But the real pull, the compelling part, isn't its potential as an investment. It's the connection you feel.
To the story.
To the story it holds, yeah. The history it represents, the craft that's basically vanished. When you wear it, you're plugging into that lineage in a way.
It may be the ultimate point of a piece like this still being around today.
I think maybe if holding it or wearing it makes you even a little bit curious. Curious about a craft that people don't do much anymore, or a time you only read about in books, or just the amazing stories that ordinary seeming objects can carry.
Yeah.
Then it's done its job. It's fulfilled its truest purpose, maybe.
So this whole deep dive, starting just from looking at one bracelet, it really took us on quite a journey. Through geology, Scottish history, royal fashions.
Hand craftsmanship, the meaning of value.
Right. And how objects can carry significance across centuries.
It really shows how something seemingly simple can be this tangible link, connecting us right back to a vanished world, a world full of stories and history, but somehow it still feels relevant. It resonates.
So maybe if a final thought for you listening. Take a look at the objects you wear or the things you keep around you. What stories might they be holding on to? What forgotten crafts or lost times might they connect you to?
That's right.
In our next episode, we'll continue our exciting treasure hunting journey, brought to you by our sponsor, Oriental Secret Garden. If you loved the bracelet featured today, check out the purchase link in the description below. Special thanks to Young and Jane for their support. See you next time.
See you next time.